Yeah, welcome to another one. Today we will be looking inside the brain, basically under the hood of the 1.3 million Kenya shilling chatbot that I built. Really short, really quick. I'll just be taking you through how it works, all the flows, all the sequences, all the systems within it that allowed it to bring in 1.3 million Kenya shillings worth of potential revenue. So without wasting any more time, let's get straight into it. Yeah, so here I am inside the Botpress studio. As you can see, we are in the main flow for the for this specific bot, and you can see it starts off over here, and we move first into this node. So what this node does is it basically decides whether the user is an old user or a new user. And the reason we do this is because we do not want the bot to interact the same with old users and with new users. So if you think about it like this, if at the start of every interaction with a new user, the bot has to send out a greeting and an introduction. So i.e., hello, my name is Melissa. You can see that down here. I'm here to help you sign up. Welcome to NextGen, right? That's the business. Basically, we do not want it to send that same introduction to old users. Why? Because that's a bit robot-like, it's a bit repetitive. And though many bots that people build do that, I decided that if there's a simple system we can use that the bot can differentiate between old users and new users and interact with them in a different way, then why not use that system? And so that's what this node does. It's an execute code card, and if you come in here, you'll just see that basically the first time that a user comes in, the variable user.new user will be empty, and so it will not basically interpret it as true, and therefore it would set proceed to true, and then it would change the new user and set that variable as false, basically now making so if the user is new, it would detect that the user is new, and it would change the user status to false before proceeding over here. And if the user is not new, it would just proceed straight over here by changing a variable called workflow.proceed to either false or true, to transition out accordingly. So let's start by going up here. Now when it goes up here, what it does basically is it gets the past conversation context. This is the old user flow. Below is for new users, but let's start with old users. It first of all queries a table that contains the history of every conversation. And the reason we do this is because we want the bot to remember what happened in the last conversation with the user, and the reason and that's so that it can interact with the user appropriately. So for example, if the user has already received a form to sign up, we don't want it to ask them again if they want to receive a form, because they've already received a form in chat in the last conversation. So it should be able to detect that from the conversation transcript, which it extracts using this find records card, and that's basically the whole point of this little section over here. And then if we move down over here, this is now basically where it interacts with the user on a more basic level. Now this is where it splits up the user's message into categories. So for example, the user will come in with asking different things, saying different things. So if we come into this AI task card, that's actually what happens. You can see it says the user sent a message. The message is stored. This is this. You must classify it into one of the following categories below. One being job search, two being more info, and the other one being other. So depending on what the user's first message is, if I come in as a user and I say, hi, I'm looking for a job, it will classify me into the job search region, store job search into this variable, and then I'll transition over here for an appropriate interaction. And if I come in asking for more info, the same thing over here, and then anything else that would include questions, statements, whatever, would go down here and into an autonomous node. Why? Because an autonomous node now has this creativity and ability to deal with anything. So from statements to questions to random love confessions or whatever, it can deal with all of that. And yeah, trust me, I've actually seen in one of the interactions a random person decided to say they love you to the bot, which is, I don't know why, but anyway, yeah, moving on. You get the idea. So coming back up here, you can see this card over here, what it does is it analyzes the transcript that was extracted here and sends users to the appropriate place. So if we open it, you'll see that it's also one of those categorizing cards, and you'll notice that you might ask yourself, why am I using these AI tasks to categorize messages when really I could be using these AI transitions instead? It's basically the same thing. Why do I use AI tasks? Because an AI transition is not going to allow you to put in this much text to describe a category. So with an AI task, you can literally describe the category that you want to transition to very clearly. So for example, if I was using an AI transition, I would have to say if the user has booked a form, or has received a form, or if the user has booked a session, right? A free trial session. However, if we use an AI task instead, you'll see that I can add way more detail into it. So if a form link was sent to the user, but they haven't mentioned that they submitted or filled it out, there's no way you can put that into an AI transition. However, with an AI task, you can. So you can create these very distinct categories and then store an output in a variable. And then after that, you would have these expression cards that use code to basically analyze what each variable means and transition out basically analyze what's stored in the variable and then transition out accordingly. So yeah, over here we just have a bunch of autonomous nodes, and these interact with the users in different ways depending on what has happened. So if they've sent, that means if they were sent the form but they haven't filled it out, if they were sent the form and they said they booked, or if maybe they were sent the form and they were hesitant, etc. And then this down here is where if they haven't received the form, in which case they can be treated in the same way as a new user, and that's why they come down to join this flow over here. So that's that. And then you can see from here basically autonomy happens in terms of the conversation, and so after the autonomous conversation, whatever happens, it can just end. That's for old users. However, for new users, you can see that it continues to take them to somewhere else. So after asking them, if the user comes in saying that they want more info, it says I can provide you with more info, and then it transitions over to the next flow, which we will go and start exploring right now. Then you'll also notice that over here I have a few distinct folders. So just a bit of organization, a few tips. I recommend that you have you put your workflows in a few folders in case it gets messy. I mean, Botpress already provides that feature, so I mean, like, why would you not use it? Because if you see over here in my utilities folder, I have stuff that's basically utilities for the conversation. So like transcript the conversation, get the child pronouns, get the username, etc., etc. Those flows are not currently in use, but they were in use in the former version of the bot. Then you can see in the UW folder, it's a little smaller, but in the older version there were, I think, like 6 different workflows here. So you can see how messy it gets down here if you don't organize your stuff with folders. So I highly recommend it. It's really cool. And yeah, so moving on to the UW info flow. Once again, very simple, and we start over here. So first of all, it starts by asking a question and then collects the answer, and then it transitions to an AI task again, right? Once again, you'll notice I'm using the AI task for the very, very same reason. It's much better at analyzing a user response than an AI transition. So you can see here in the categories, I can put literally a whole paragraph, and it will analyze my input and compare the user's message to see if it matches my input, and then do the appropriate action of storing the value in the variable. So that's why I'm basically, like, I'm in love with AI tasks right now. They are absolutely beautiful. They help out a lot when it comes to understanding precisely what the user wants, their intent, and transitioning out accordingly. And actually, if you might think it gets a little costly after some time, but in fact, if we come into the bot settings, I'm currently running the Gemini 2.0 Flash LLM models, so those are they're really good basically, and they also save a lot of money. So most interactions go between like 0.000005, so 0.05 of a cent, and maybe at worst a 1/10 of a cent. So you can see how economical they are. However, I've also been playing around with where is it? Cerebrus. Yeah, Cerebrus Llama 3.18b. That's also another really powerful one, really cheap, and it's amazing as well. As well as, where was it? Cloud 3 Haiku is quite good as well, but it's not as cheap as Gemini 2.0. But if you're looking for something cheap, you can check out GPT-o1 Mini as well. Though it's also another really powerful one, really good at reasoning, and that's why it can do well on AI tasks, because it clearly understands what the user wants, but at the same time it's quite cheap. So going back over here, you can see that if the user wants a general overview, basically this question asks if they want a general overview. The AI task will understand their response to see if they do, and then transition accordingly where they will receive their general overview in this whole wall of text. And then over here, it offers them a free 1-day trial. And then basically down here is if they don't want a general overview, or if they respond with anything else, like for example, a question. Then it transitions back here to an autonomous node and answers their questions once again. So you can see how that all works. Very simple, very easy. And then from over here, this is where they receive the form. So you can see here's the link to the free trial form. It's down here. And then basically this autonomous node is what manages now converting the user into a lead. Because once users come into the system, they chat with the bot, its main objective is to get them to fill out a form. And it has been able to do that and bring in over 1.3 million Kenya shillings worth of leads. So that's what this part does. The only downside with this, and the thing I would change about this, is that I would create a whole different workflow for this, and I would add more. I'd basically extend it. Number one, I would use AI tasks instead of an autonomous, because it's basically the same thing. And there's a new system I discovered that basically allows you to make an autonomous node out of a bunch of AI tasks, which I'll share in a later video. However, with an AI task, you can basically continue to converse with the user, but then when they do want to fill out the form, which the bot is supposed to detect and send them the form, I would also add an extra node in which the data that says that they were sent a form is sent out. So that's what I'm doing in my newer bots. There's currently two bots that I'm working on for two businesses in Nairobi, and their systems, whenever a user receives a form, the data is sent out to an Airtable database to basically say, hey, in this conversation, this user received a form. Here is the transcript of the conversation. Why do we do that? Because it allows for tracking. It allows them to understand how many people are receiving forms in comparison to how many people are actually filling forms, in comparison to how many people are coming into the bot and starting a conversation, which is really good data to have. As we all know, like data is basically what drives your business forward. Your ability to extract data from your business processes, analyze it, and use that to make changes in the respective places is what's really going to push you forward. And that's what many businesses want as well. So they're usually very happy with that. And then over here, you'll see one more flow, UW quick question. This is basically for when users want to ask questions. However, it's not currently in use, but I will go ahead and show you this advanced query knowledge base flow that I built a few weeks ago. And the way it works is, if a user wants to ask a question, their question they will automatically be sent into this flow. Their question is then sent into this query knowledge base card, and it's queried, and then it comes down here, and basically the response of the question is checked in this little snippet of code. So basically, if Botpress has a thing of when it's not able to find a response to your question, it just stores the same. In the variable over here, you'll notice that the input to the output for the question is going to be the same as the input to the variable. So basically, if we come over here, you can see that in the workflow.ans one is message, and message is the user's last message. But then you'll also notice that the input for the query flow is also the user's last message, event.preview. So basically, workflow.answer1 contains the user's last message, and so does the input, right, the query. However, what this snippet of code does is it checks if workflow.answer1 was changed, because the way Botpress works is if it can't find an answer to your question, it does not fill the result variable or change the result variable. So if it's not able to answer the question here, it's not going to change workflow.answer1, and workflow.answer1 contains the user's original question. So basically what this does is it checks if event.preview is still equal to workflow.answer1, meaning workflow.answer1 was not changed by the query card, which means that the query failed. Basically the knowledge base could not find an answer, and if that's true, then you can see it stores this in the appropriate place, and then this little card over here checks to see whether the query card was able to answer the user's question, and if it wasn't, then you can see no answer found in knowledge base, and it transitions to an autonomous node, because now autonomous nodes have that creativity to generate an answer, because the difference between an autonomous node and a query card is if you ask a query card a question and it doesn't find the information in your knowledge base, it will not give you an answer. But if you ask an autonomous node a question and it doesn't find the answer in your knowledge base, it will still find its way to generate something for you, at least, or at least a reply to the user to say something like, I wasn't able to find an answer, but I would assume, or etc., just to keep the conversation flowing rather than show the user that the bot has gotten stuck. So basically this is just a quick flow that allows your bots to avoid getting stuck, and I'll share a little more on this in one of my later videos as well. But yeah, that's basically the UW quick question part of this system. Moving on to the conversation transcript part of the system. Basically this just inserts a transcript of the conversation within the record. Creates a record including the transcript of the conversation within the table, and that is the same table that is queried at the beginning of the old workflow. If you remember, we covered that at the very beginning of the video. So to write those transcripts into storage, that's the role of this workflow over here. Very simple, just one card, and you can see inside the transcript it inputs the conversation summary agent dot transcript variable and inputs the user ID as well, because yeah, that's basically what needs to happen. But then there's also if we come over here into the main flow, you'll notice that what happens is that that record gets deleted. So basically at the beginning of every single conversation, it deletes the record of the old transcript, because it knows that at the end of that conversation there will be a record of a new transcript, and regardless of how the conversation ends, whether it ends by timeout, you can see it still flows into the convo transcript workflow, in which the transcript would get logged. So regardless, even if the conversation transcript or old record is being deleted, it does not mean that that record will never appear again. Basically, it's the system already has the old transcript stored, stores it at the beginning of the conversation, and then once it has that, it just updates it throughout the conversation, deletes the record of the old transcript, and outputs a new record once the conversation is done. So there you go, that's your little under the hood video of the 1.3 million Kenya shilling chatbot. You can see it's very simple, very straightforward. However, it has been months of work to get to that point, to refine the statements within the autonomous nodes, within the AI tasks, so that it does exactly what you want it to do. Is not an easy process. However, once you get it right, you can just replicate it across your systems. And another good way that I've found of developing basically chatbots is that once you have multiple projects running, whatever you test in each different project can probably be implemented in a different one as well. So for example, if in project 1 I find a faster LLM or a faster way to do something, I can easily sweep that over into projects 2 and 3 to basically improve their systems as well. So it's been a really fun journey building stuff like this, because I know it doesn't only help the business, but it also helps myself by basically allowing me to do research into systems and stuff that's actually currently working, that I can then push on to the projects of my other clients. So yeah, that's been it from this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.